Beware of the environment. It burns. Yeah, it does. It actually burns. So I'm going on holiday next week on Monday, so tomorrow from when this video goes up. And yeah, I'm already burnt. So imagine what I'm going to look like in a week. Well, I'll look the same because I'm actually recording next week's video as soon as I finish this one. So the week afterwards, who knows? Let's see. So yeah, this week we're going to talk about environment variables. We're going to be talking about how to put them into pods, how to use config maps and secrets, and yeah, that's it really. So let's crack on. To show you how environment variables work, I'm going to use a different container this time, or a different container image, I should say, because it's still going to be a pod, it's still going to be a deployment. Okay, so we're going to use MariaDB, and the reason for this is because I could use Nginx, and I could just stick an environment variable in there and show you how it looks by typing env within the container. But if I did that, then the problem would be you don't really get anything from it. You're just going to see the text there and go, okay, cool, thanks, Drew, for that really useful information. What do I do with that? In the context of MariaDB, though, you have to set an environment variable to set the root password. So it kind of makes sense to use something like this to show you how it works. Plus, later down the line, we may end up using a database as we start stitching a load of things together. I don't know yet, I've not decided. So we'll get started with this. So I'm going to jump over to my IDE, and what we'll do is we'll just start replacing a few things. So MariaDB, we'll replace that everywhere. I'm not going to call it -deployment anymore because I don't feel like that's necessary. I'm going to get rid of this line here. I'm going to change this for database and this for MariaDB, and I think it's 10.11, but I will confirm that. So let's just scroll down a bit, and 10.11.3 or 10.11 is fine, so I'm going to stick with 10.11. You might be wondering why I do that. Well, if it goes from .3 to .4, it's still 10.11, and I don't feel like that's a significant enough change here for it to cause a breaking change, and it shouldn't also cause a breaking change. So I don't mind going for the 10.11. Some people will just stick with the 10. You know, that's also fine. And it just means that when an updated 10.11 tag comes out, say 10.11.4 comes out, then 10.11 will automatically reference that new one if it's all tagged correctly. I'm going to change the ports, so 3306, and then we'll get into environment variables. So we've got everything we need. I've got a deployment called MariaDB, and it's not called Maria. It's called, I've just seen a typo there, so I'm going to quickly just replace all of them because otherwise I'm going to start seeing issues pretty quickly. I'm also going to change this to 1. Now, realistically, I wouldn't recommend using a deployment for a database. Stateful sets would be better, and that's what I would generally recommend. But just for the sake of showing you environment variables, this is fine. If we decide to do databases later, I will change this for a stateful set. Okay. In fact, do you know what? Let's just do it because let's go on. Let's start as we mean to go on. Okay. So we'll change this for a stateful set. So we need a service name here. So we'll do service name, and we'll just call the service name MariaDB. Okay, that's just going to be the same. And that's everything. I'm not going to set up system volumes though, because for now, I don't need it. This is about environment variables. So we'll do env. So within the containers section, we'll type env. And this needs a name, which will just be the name of the environment variable itself. So we'll go back and take a look at that. So if we scroll down a bit, we'll see the required one here, MariaDB root password. Now, this is a Docker Compose file, but we can still use that because if we scroll down just a tad further, we'll see environment variables here and all the environment variables we can set. Okay, and you'll see a little bit further down here, it's mentioning using Docker secrets. That's because realistically, what we're about to do is not wise. So this is the environment variable as it will be seen within the container, the pods container, and now we need a value. Okay, so we'll set value, and the value will be some password. The reason I pointed out that Docker secrets bit is because if I wanted to commit this to GitHub or something like that, well, I don't want to put my password here. That's a terrible idea, right? But for the sake of showing you how everything works, we'll do kubectl, apply, f, and I will do 16 EnvVars deployment. Okay, so we'll run that. Jump back over to here, kubectl, get pod namespace learning. And in here, we should see, oh, I've still got stuff running from before. I'm actually just going to delete that while I'm at it. But yeah, okay, I'll leave DNS utils. You never know how that's going to be useful, so that's fine. Okay, so we've got MariaDB. So that's running now. That's brilliant. Okay, so if I do kubectl logs -f, we'll see, oh, namespace learning, sorry. We'll see here that it's gone through, it's set everything up, and no errors. So in theory, I can now start to connect to this. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to quickly add a service in here because it kind of makes sense that we have a service for this, okay? So we'll quickly fire a service together. Now, that'll be fine. So we'll just do an apply on that again, and that will create a service. So if I just do kubectl, get po, svc, namespace learning, let's have a look. We should see port here. Yep, that's fine. And actually, I've still got those services as well. So I'm doing kubectl, delete svc. I should have cleaned this up before though, so it's fine. So let's take a look at that again. So we've got this port here. So if I now go back to my IDE, I can connect databases on here. So if I do database, I should just be able to connect. So I'll do this. I'll do add data source, and down here we should have MariaDB. I might need to install a plugin here. I'm not sure. No, okay. Oh yeah, download missing driver files. There we go. So I'll do that in the background. In the meantime, I'll do MariaDB-KS. Okay. So where's that downloading? Ah, there we go. So the host will just be one of the worker node hosts. I'll do 192.168.0.210, I think it was. You know what? Get nodes, output wide. Let's see. To 11, 12, and 13. Okay, so just pick any one. It doesn't matter because node ports will root through anyway. So username will be root and the password will be some password, which is what we typed in just here, some password. So I'm going to do some password, and that should work for us now. Okay, except for 3306 won't be correct if you think about it because it's a node port. Okay, so we'll go back and grab that node port, which is this. And we will put that in and test the connection. And we can see now we've got a successful connection. Okay, so we'll click OK. And here we have it. This is the database. This is it. We're in. Okay, so I can add a new schema if I wanted to. I could just call it MyDB and create that. And then in there, I can create some tables. I can just do my table. You know, that's it. I'm on the database now. That is it. It's all there, ready to go. How did that work exactly? And this is the bit that I could have shown you in Nginx, but I wanted to show you a practical use of it, which is setting up a database, okay? But what I can quickly do, just to show you, I do kubectl, namespace learning, and then execute -it, the name of the pod, and then we'll just do env. And inside here, we're just going to run env, and env just shows all the environment variables configured. And if we scroll down just a little bit, we'll see here, we've got this MariaDB root password equals some password. Now, straight away, you can see a security problem there. If someone gets access to your Kubernetes cluster, even if you set it up as secure secrets and things like that, you're still going to be able to see that password right there. Okay, so there is a point where there's only so much you can secure things. Okay, so how can we improve on this though? Let's take a step back, right? And jump back over here. We're going to close this database connection here. Now this here, if I wanted to push this to a repo somewhere, then I don't want that plain text password there. What I can do to get around that is I can stick that in a secret. Now, for the record, I would never do this either because this is also not secure. Secure Kubernetes doesn't exist unless you make it secure, okay? Realistically, I would store this password in something like Vault, okay? And then use external secrets operator or something akin to that, or sealed secrets or something like that to encrypt passwords, okay? There's multiple ways you can do this, but for me, using Vault, which means I can store secrets securely within Vault, and then using the external secrets operator to talk to Vault, to pull secrets down and set up the secret on the Kubernetes cluster, is one of the better ways in my opinion. Like I say, there's other things like sealed secrets and other options, but that's the approach I would take. However, I don't have any of that set up because, as you know, there's nothing on this cluster at the moment. So I'm just going to create a secret. Okay, so we'll do API version. And for the record, if you use something like sealed secrets, it still creates a secret afterwards. It's just that you don't have a base 64 encoded secret. Okay, so we'll do that, and then we'll do kind equals secret. And then I'll do metadata, and we'll have a name, which will be Maria. I'll spell MariaDB right in a second. Password and namespace will be learning. And then we need some data, okay? And the data will be password, and that will just be the base 64 encoded string of the password, okay? So I'll grab that. So I'll just base 64 encode this, okay? So what I need to do for that is echo. I'll do -n. Let's get rid of any new lines, and then we'll do base 64 encode, and just to make sure there is no extra white space or new lines or anything like that, put the W0 on there. So this is our base 64 encoder password. We can confirm that by doing echo, the base 64 encoded string, and then base 64 -d, that will decode it, and you can see some password, okay? So we've got that string. We can now pop that there, and we have a secret. Okay, so where do we use this secret? Well, we can still use this here. Okay, so we'll do value from. So the value from is a secret key ref, which has just popped up there. So it's key ref. Then we want a name. So we can give the name of the secret, which is MariaDB password. And then the key is this key here. Okay, so we'll pop that in as well. So now you can see that I can securely store this because no one's getting access to the secret just by reading this. don't push this to the database because anyone can come along and base64 decode this. But that's, as I say, where Vault would store your password. The external secrets operator would pull that password in from Vault and then create this secret for you on the cluster, meaning you don't have to store the secret in a Git repo. If you want to store the secret in a Git repo, that's where something like sealed secrets could come in instead. Okay, so there are options around it. You could just encrypt this and chuck it in the repo if you really wanted to, but then you need a mechanism for decrypting it on the cluster when you come to deploy it. Sealed secrets will do that for you. Okay, but again, don't do this in production. I hate it when people say don't do this in production because they never give an example, but I'm hoping I've given you a bit of an example there, but vocally saying use Vault or sealed secrets or something. We will eventually get into doing that properly as well. It's not for right now though, because as I'm sure you're starting to get if you followed this series through, we're slowly stepping up towards more advanced setups. But for now, you need to have the basics down, and this is the basics. So we now have a secret, we're referencing that secret, and we have a service. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and get that apply command again. And instead of applying, we will delete all of that. So we'll just wait for that to finish. And if we have a look in there, yep, there we go, that's all gone. And now we'll apply that. So we'll now take a look and we'll also add the secret onto there. And we should see all of this come up. I'm going to have to update my port on this connection here. I'll just go ahead and update that and apply it. And let's have a look. We're running now. So if I run test, there we go. We can see it's connected again. So I've managed to type the password in there. That's fine. But we can see this time the password has come from the secret itself. So now, I can run that execute IT. You'll see exactly the same thing happen. So MariaDB root password is that. But if we actually describe or have a look at the pod itself. So if I get the pod and we output that as YAML, if someone was to do this, they wouldn't be able to see the secret. Okay, they'd have to actually go looking for the secret. And the thing is, when we start getting to RBAC, we can lock down access to secrets. We can make sure that no one can read secrets. The only thing that can read secrets is the infrastructure itself, the Kubernetes cluster itself. So if someone came along and did kubectl get secret MariaDB password, they wouldn't do it. It just told them they're not allowed to do that. Okay, that is again for a later video, but there is ways of locking down the secret for the users of the cluster. Okay, that is pretty much where I'm going to leave it for secrets. Config maps work in exactly the same way. So for the sake of just showing you how something like that would work, we do config map. Okay, and the data would be, it's been a while since I've done database administration, so you're gonna have to bear with me a second. So we've got a my.conf here. Okay, and we'll do config. And what we could do is say we've got an environment variable, and this is, again, there isn't an environment variable for this in here, I don't think. Let's have a quick look. No, I'm not seeing one, but let's pretend for the sake of it that there is one. Okay, and it was called MariaDB. Oh goodness me, MariaDB configuration. Okay, and we'd say instead of secret key ref, we'd have config map key ref. There'd be a key which is the same as last time, and that key is my.conf. Okay, in fact, instead of that, I'm just going to do conf. Okay, so we do conf, and the name would be equal to MariaDB config. Okay, and doing that will just give us that configuration file. So again, if I just go ahead and apply that, that will get updated. And if we jump back to here, let's take a look. We'll see in here now that we have a new entry, MariaDB configuration, which is equal to config map key ref. The key is CNF, and the MariaDB config is that. And if I go ahead and just run env again and output that, we can see that is now equal to this. Okay, that's not the best example because that isn't an actual environment variable that MariaDB uses, but it is an example of where a config map can also be inserted as a environment variable if you need it. And that's it for environment variables. Another pretty short one. That's environment variables. It's pretty straightforward. Obviously, have a little bit of a practice. You get used to it. It gets easier. And if you didn't find it easy, watch the video again, I guess. But yeah, there's only a few things to do with it. So in the next video, we're going to look at scaling. We're going to look at growing workloads, shrinking workloads. We'll touch on the autoscalers, such as the cluster autoscaler and the vertical pod autoscaler. We probably won't play with the cluster autoscaler though, because I don't have the infrastructure here on VMs to play with it. But I do plan on doing a video later down the line on that when I set up something in OpenStack or something like that. I won't be going through a tutorial on that, by the way. I'll just be switching to a cluster that's got it. I recommend by the time you get to that point though, you have some sort of cloud available, or maybe, I don't know, we're looking into it anyway. Maybe it does support VMs and I've just not seen it yet. I don't think it would though, so we'll see. Anyway, so yeah, scaling will be the next video. So I'll see you over there.